Welcome back to another episode of the UB School of Management's podcast. I'm your host, Henry Nowak, and today we'll be speaking with a distinguished faculty member here at UB and an excellent mentor for aspiring entrepreneurs, Susan Steffan. Susan is currently the Executive Director for the Center of Entrepreneurial Leadership, on the Board of Directors at Alden State Bank, and the founder of her consulting firm, Steffan Solutions, which operates to provide consulting services through a variety of clients in the areas of finance, business planning, and negotiations. Before becoming part of the faculty here at UB, Susan also graduated from UB with a bachelor's degree in management with a minor in psychology and a master's of business administration with a concentration in corporate finance. She worked as a supervisor at Delphi, taking on many assignments, including purchasing, sales, marketing, and business planning, a senior operations analyst at Hearst, and an associate professor of finance at Medaille College. Susan.
Well, thank you very much. Just to clarify, though, I am not part of the faculty at UB. So I left my faculty ranks when I left Medaille and came to UB and actually joined the ranks of the staff here. So I'm part of the senior leadership team at the School of Management.
Very nice. Yeah, thank you. So after reading a little bit more about the CEL, I know that it has 23,000 Western New Yorkers employed by the CEL businesses, over 1,700 grads, and over $2 billion in economic impact. So I just wanted to hear what makes the CEL so important to you?
Yeah, CEL is quite a legacy in Western New York. So it was actually started back in 1987 by some entrepreneurs in connection with the dean of the School of Management at the time, who said, we need something besides just management degree programs. We need something that helps business owners grow. And it's probably before your time, but back then in Western New York, things weren't going so well economically. So it was really a part of the push to say, how do we get Western New York to be part of the Renaissance? And if anyone knows their statistics of job creation, they tend to come from small business. So the idea was, let's develop a training program where we can educate, support, empower executives who own their own companies to be more successful. To me, what makes it so impactful to me is that legacy. When I came in, all I heard was all the fantastic stories and impact that CEL has had over the years, both economically and just personally and professionally. So I was actually a part of CEL before I became employed by CEL. I used to volunteer and work with some of the business owners over the years through the program. So I knew how good it was. When the opportunity came up, I thought, boy, this is something I really want to be a part of. And since joining, it's been a legacy that I'm trying really hard to preserve and to improve upon.
Yeah, it seems like you guys do such excellent work for a lot of different small businesses. Is there any in recent years that have really stood out to
Yeah,
you?
we get the beauty of my job is it's very affirming. You understand how what you do on a daily basis makes an impact, but both in the community, but also in individually. And we've had some stories that just warm your heart, so to speak. So great example. We had one of our business owners who came through our Emerging Entrepreneurs Program last year. Our Emerging Entrepreneurs Program is for historically underrepresented founders who are just starting out, right? They've been in business typically less than 2 years, just making, minimal to decent revenue, but would like to grow that. Some have nonprofits, some have side businesses. And so they're really looking to get that step to launch and develop and grow their business and develop the systems. So one of our participants last year was running a nonprofit that she felt very passionate about, was doing great things in the community, and really had, through her journey with us, because our Emerging Entrepreneurs is a 10-month program. They get a lot of business assistance. They got some leadership coaching. They worked on themselves as well as on their business. She was able to really do things that would grow that business. And what was the most rewarding part of it to me, she has now gone to was just announced last week, won a grant, and that grant is going to help support additional business owners in Western New York. So it was a really nice example of how what we do has this long-term impact, kind of a domino falling, where she was able to pay forward what she learned in the program to now help provide, that kind of information to other programs. The other business owners we talk to, we get, and this is, it's hard to pick just one because it happens so frequently, but people who really felt like they were all by themselves. When you're running a business, it's hard, right? You have to be the boss. You have to be in charge. All these people are responsible for you. if you have a bad day, the business has a bad day. And they don't always have someone to talk to. They may have great family and friends, but if they're not business owners, they just don't really get it, right? They don't know what it's like to walk in those shoes. You can't really talk to your employees because you're the boss. You have to, probably promote a certain image. And so when they come into our programs, they find these groups of business owners who completely different industries, completely different products, just like them. They're like-minded. They're able to sit and discuss, their concerns, their joys, their opportunities, their failures, and really lean on each other. And when you hear people who say, I really felt all alone, and now I have this group of people, and we've been meeting for months, years. When I first started, I started at CEL full time in January of 2022, and one of our business owners reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to come to dinner." It was our class of 2000 that still meets once a month to talk about their business issues. So they'd been meeting for 24 years. They knew each other's, kids, grandkids, weddings, business successes, failures, sales, acquisitions, the whole bit. And that's really, really powerful. So lots of those stories. I mean, lots of great stories too, with an economic impact. People who have expanded their business, hired more, acquired companies, additional divisions. We get lots of that good stuff all the time. But some of the personal ones where somebody says, you know what, before CEL, I really didn't know if I could do it, and now I do. Those just, that's what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the sense of community. And so there's the emerging
Mhm.
entrepreneurs program, and I know you also have some
Right.
other programs. Do you see a similar sense of community with those as
Absolutely.
well?
So our emerging entrepreneur program has been going on for 20 years. Okay, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary in our graduation ceremony in June of this past year. So lots of cohorts. I think over 500 graduates of that program during that time. Our core program is the one where we started in 1987 with the first graduating class. So that program's been going, in 38 years. Those when you talk about a sense of community, it's crazy what a sense of community is. I'll give you a great example. Last night at our core program meets on Thursdays from 3 to 5, and afterwards typically go out, do a social hour, something like that. But last night was after our class was we call it our mentor meet and greet. So every business owner in our program gets matched with a mentor. Many of those mentors are alumni of our program. And we had in our offices, we're down at the Gateway building downtown. We had our 40 business owners who are in the program, and we had most of the mentors that go with them, the ones that could make it that night. So we had people milling around, and meeting each other. And the beauty of it, number one, it's awesome to see the people giving back, volunteering their time just because of how passionately they feel CEL helped them in their business. But every year we put out a call for mentors and expert speakers and things like that we need in the program. And the problem I have is that I have more people volunteer than I can use in any given year. And I don't want to disappoint anyone because we love that they want to stay involved. But that gives you a little sense of how they feel, tied to CEL, how they feel that the School of Management through CEL has impacted their business and their lives. We have quite a few groups that, not only do they come back for programming. They do additional programs at CEL. They volunteer in all the various programs. We have a very vibrant board of directors made up of, a large number of our alumni who have gone on to great success. So, we're very fortunate that the community around CEL sticks. But what's really, really very impactful as well, a lot of people who go through the program, the folks they meet become their lifelong friends. I mean, we have countless stories, hey, I all of a sudden something happened and that guy was at my house, within an hour of my phone call to help, or met me for coffee when I was struggling with something. So it really becomes, sometimes as adults, it's harder to make friends, so it is a nice way to meet people who are kind of understand your world and they can really support you. So that's been just, it's wonderful to witness. It really is. And there's some amazing people in our programs. I didn't even mention though, aside from our core program, we also have a mastery forum, which is a year-round program. It doesn't have a start and stop. And we have some business owners who've been in that program for more than 8 years, who just keep coming back every month to meet with a very tight-knit group of business owners who can help them with whatever their business opportunities and challenges are. So it's pretty exciting, legacy to be a part of.
Yeah, I have to say, after speaking with some of the business owners who've taken part in CEL, it really seems like the biggest difference has been that
Mhm.
network. And so I know that the CEL kind of has this management role over the
Mhm.
whole thing, connecting people one with another. So has there been any examples of a really good connection that you've made from maybe a business owner to a potential
Mhm.
employee, or maybe a mentor to a mentee, or
Yeah,
something like that through the CEL?
absolutely. Actually, a great example on the student side. Last year, the dean of the School of Management, Dean Ayer, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I met this individual who was, super impressed with this certain one of our businesses that's gone through CEL, and said, it's her ideal job. It marries, several different interests without saying the name of the company, and she'd love to just meet the owner." I said, okay, reach out. Owner's thrilled. That's the beauty of CEL, right? They're always thrilled to do whatever. And that person, that school management graduate, is now working for that business. And there wasn't a job posted, there wasn't an opening, but the owner was so impressed and said, "Oh my gosh, this could really help us as we grow." And it was a perfect fit. So that's wonderful. And then within our businesses, actually, it just happened this week. We got a call from one of our business owners. A company that was doing work for them is shutting down, and kind of not left them in the lurch, but they had some projects that need to be completed that could no longer do it. So we were able to pretty quickly, with our network, reach out to someone and say, "Hey, do you know who does?" And within a day, got them connected, and they're happy, and everything is good. So a lot of what we do is connecting people, and very often the companies that have gone through our programs, they want to do business with other CEL companies. Number one, because the fact that a business owner takes the time and the investment to come to one of these programs, and for them, their time is their biggest asset. So taking time out of their business to come and work with us and sit with us in a classroom, really says something, that they're taking seriously the need to work on their business and not just in their business. So when you're a company looking for whatever it is, a new supplier, a landscaper, whatever you need, they say, "Well, I want a CEL business because I know that by the fact that they've been through your program, it says something about how they run their business. I know they've gotten a lot of information and advice from you, but I know that they at least care enough about the business to spend time working on it." So we do a lot of connections as far as that goes. We've also been very fortunate to connect students to opportunities for internships, for doing projects with our businesses. And we've been able to connect our businesses to other areas of UB, maybe when they need help with, modeling or prototypes, or, whatever kind of support UB offers. We've been very fortunate to be that connection point too.
I'm really glad you mentioned the time spent, and them spending the time in the CEL program, and really what that says about them and how focused they are on their business. For aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe entrepreneurs just starting out with
Mhm.
their startup, is there any time management advice you might have for
Yeah.
them?
So we actually do a lot on time management with our entrepreneurs, because they're so busy and they're juggling so many balls. And a big part of it, depending on, where you are in your business journey, sometimes it's learning to delegate if you're lucky enough to have a staff. When you're first starting out, you have to delegate to yourself. But we're really big on actually structure and showing people specific tools of how do you work your planner? How do you use your Outlook calendar? How do you, respond and set up. Right now, our big thing in our programs is teaching people how to use AI tools to save themselves some time and to be more efficient. How can ChatGPT help you manage your email inbox or your social media posts? So that's a big part of it, is finding, tricks or tips or tools to help you, be able to focus more time. But very often with our entrepreneurs, one of the things we have to spend a lot of time counseling is you can't do everything at once, and you kind of have to pick and choose your things you're going to focus on. Entrepreneurs get where they are because they're creative, they have a lot of great ideas, and so to tone that down sometimes is hard. It's like, "Oh, I could do this, I could do that." I mean, we get that at CEL. We're always like, "Oh, we could do this new program, this would be fun," and to say, "Wait a minute, I've got to look." And the one thing I tell every business owner, pretty everybody that I get a chance to talk to, is when you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else by default. Unless somebody has figured out a new thing I don't know about, we all get the same 24 hours in a day. So whenever we agree to something that takes 1 hour of our time in one direction, by nature, we don't have that hour to give somewhere else. And, for our entrepreneurs, very often what they sacrifice, their health, their sleep, their family. And so we try to help them see, in the long run, that's not where you want to be. One of our biggest, when we work with business owners, because we go out and meet in the community, we're at chambers of commerce, we're at events to tell people about our programs and to try to, see where they could fit in and how we can help them. One of the biggest obstacles we deal with is business owners who say, I don't have time for your program. I'm like, that's why you need to be here. I said, I can absolutely guarantee you, give me that 2 hours a week and I will find you more than 2 hours a week in savings. I can absolutely guarantee you. But it's very hard when you're caught up in the day to day and you're in the weeds to pull back and say, I really need to do that bigger picture, that strategic, but very often we spend time on things that aren't super productive or they're not our best use of time, and for business owners, it's getting to understand, your time is your most important asset. And you have to value it and you have to put a cost to it so that you can say, is it worth this? Can I automate this? Yeah, maybe I have to pay a little bit more for this, but it's going to free up my time to be able to do this. And it's really tough for entrepreneurs to see that. But, one of the mistakes we see very often with business owners, especially those starting out, when they're trying to build their client base, they get caught up in other stuff and then they miss deadlines or they don't get back to somebody or they've got a customer inquiry that they haven't responded to quickly. And we have to make them see, those things, look at what you did with a certain, whatever your work day is, 8, 12 hours, whatever it is. Look, track your time, see what you did with it. And then ask yourself, is that what's going to move my business ahead? Because sometimes people get caught up in networking events or going out to do things, which are all great. But if you have customers that you're not responding to, it's a problem, and so it's making people see the choices. I think that's probably the biggest time management tip is understand the choices. That and a really good planner. I'm a big planner person. Write it all down. Write everything down. Give yourself check marks. Check marks are a huge motivator. I love a good check mark.
Yeah. So this idea of tracking and the word of advice that you said that I really like, I'm going to hold it with me. When you say yes to something, you say no to something else. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to know what time is best to shift away from something that's taking up too much of your time. If it's bringing some value to your business, but maybe not enough, how do you know when that point
Well,
comes?
the first thing, the only way you can really allocate your time appropriately is to figure out your goals, right? So if my number one goal is sales growth, then I have to look at my time through the lens of, are the things I'm doing leading me to sales growth? If my thing is improving customer satisfaction, are the things I'm doing, so you really have to understand the goals for your business. And what's really important to know, what we deal with a lot with our business owners, not every business owner's goal is, I want to be as big as possible and grow in the biggest revenue. That's some people are there because I want to make enough to be able to leave this job so I can spend more time with the kids, or I want to, be able to do this certain impactful thing with so many hours. But let me be clear, if you're a nonprofit, you still need to make money. So that's the one thing. So everything I'm saying applies whether you're a for-profit business or a nonprofit business. But once you have clarity as to your goals, then you can start allocating your time to find them, to follow the goals. So every one of our entrepreneurs in our core program, we make them do 2 charts: how I currently spend my time, and based on my objectives, how I should be spending my time. And then we talk about what's preventing you from getting from A to B. And sometimes it's being okay with saying no. Sometimes it's looking at all the things I feel I should do and saying, yeah, like volunteer work is awesome and we need people to do great volunteer work in the community. But if your volunteer work is stopping you from being able to promote your business or do your business well, eventually not having a successful business is going to prevent you from doing the volunteer work or being able to donate to your volunteer organization. So it does tie back, but business owners are so driven and so good at what they do that sometimes, it's hard to say no because you could do that and you could do it well. And people know that. So they ask you everything, right? But where I see business owners that aren't having the success that they want, it's because they don't have the focus that they want. And that with focus, it becomes a lot easier to allocate your time. And when you start looking you put a cost on your time, this is one of my other tips I love to do. Figure out, Give yourself a cost per hour. What would you pay somebody to be you? Or take your annual revenue, divide it up, and figure out what your cost per hour is. Now look at what you're doing at a certain hour.
Mhm.
Is that worth it? Okay. You doing that is the equivalent of paying, $200 an hour for it. Could you hire somebody at 20, $30 an hour to do that? Could you outsource that to a contractor to do it? So there's options when you start realizing as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that time is your absolute most precious asset that you have.
I'm glad you mentioned focus. It seems like from the research, you may have had this shift from corporate finance to very much consulting and giving advice to other
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. So, how did you find your focus?
So what I found, so I worked coming out of the school of management with my MBA, worked a lot of years in industry doing different things. And I started actually teaching as an adjunct while I had other jobs. And I love, and I worked with all different people at that time as an adjunct, whether they're business owners or employees of companies, whatever they were. And as I kind of developed this career over the span of my life, when I look back, I kind of said, the theme that ties all this together, right, is improve. Like even finance, sales, purchasing, business planning. It's all about making businesses better. Right? It's all your business or the business that you're talking about better. And as I worked with people and volunteered, and I used to volunteer in the CEL program, and I saw the struggles people had. Some of the stuff that I thought I just knew and everybody must know. And I realized it actually came from years of doing certain things, right, that built to that point. So when I was a faculty member at Madai, all of our business students, one of the things I created was a capstone project where they all had to do business plans. And so I was working with a number of small businesses in the community with student groups doing business plans. And as I sat with those entrepreneurs and their students, and you saw like they're really good at whatever the business is. If it's a restaurant, they're awesome chefs. If it's a manufacturing company, they know how to make whatever it is. But then, the business stuff isn't intuitive. No, you don't necessarily grow up just going, oh, I know how to do finances and HR and all that. And, the more conversations I had with business owners, I thought, you know what? This is really what puts together everything in my journey, my career journey, is working with these business owners and sharing that. And part of it, for me, and I'll be the first to say I am not an expert in most anything, right? But it's knowing who is and the connections. So I'm humble enough to say, this isn't me. I'm not an expert in it. I don't know it, but I know people who do. I know people who are. And so the biggest role of CEL is being the connector. And that's what I think my main job is, right? How do my job is to go learn who knows stuff. So I have to be out in the community and out in the campus knowing who knows, and then knowing what people need, and then putting those two together. Because very often people don't like to admit that they don't know everything, and our business owners fall into this, right? Because they're the owner, they're supposed to know everything. Well, the day you bought the business or started the business didn't all of a sudden make you an expert in all those different subject areas. And we try to provide them enough to be dangerous, at least in all those subjects, right? So they understand, that. But my big thing is know what you don't know and what you have to hire for. There's no shame in that. That's a smart business owner, right? If I've taught finance for years. I don't teach financial accounting. I can do financial accounting, right? You had to do that to do finance, but I didn't work as a CPA. I'm not a CPA. So don't ask me your tax questions. I'll be the first to say I have no idea, and I'm not going to guess. I mean, I may know what I do for me. That doesn't mean it works for you. That's why we bring in people from the school of management tax programs. They're wonderful and they know this, better than I ever could. And so being vulnerable enough to know when you need help, being humble enough to admit that you don't know everything, and then being curious enough to find all those resources and connect them. And I think CEL, from the day I got there, the one word I use with all the folks on my team is, I want us to be the concierge. So, and if you think of a hotel concierge, you go down to the front desk and say, hey, who do you know who does this? Or where should I go for this? That's what I want CEL to be. So when a business owner comes to us, we'll be the first to say, we don't do that, but you know what? Here you go. Let me introduce you to the perfect organization or individual that does, and happy to do that. Whereas I think sometimes, nonprofits in our area don't always think of all that collaboration and cooperation because they're competing for funding and things are going on. But you know what, there are plenty of business owners who need our help. So I have no, we love working with other business support organizations. We bring them into our programs all the time. We promote their activities and what they do because, the more help, the better. Western New York has gone through a renaissance in entrepreneurship. It's an exciting time to be here. And, rising tide lifts all boats. We love to see other businesses succeed. We love to see other business support organizations succeed. I think it's a great time to be in this role in Buffalo.
So I know you talked about the curiosity to seek out people and find those resources, and how the CEL serves as a
Mhm.
concierge. Were they serving as that concierge before you
I
got
think
there?
so. Yeah, I think so. I know that CEL has always been about community and about doing whatever is best for entrepreneurs. Got to remember too, I came there coming off COVID a couple of years. So I think there was a need to re energize all of those community connections because all of us lost a lot of that for a couple of years. So certainly we've made it a bigger focus, but I'm sure, it was also done in the past. But I really think and one of the beautiful things about CEL is all the people who are involved in CEL in the past, 38 years, they're still involved in CEL. So all the past executive directors, I can still call for advice and support. People who used to work there, we still talk to. So what's wonderful is you really haven't had to start back from zero. I didn't have to. I could build on what was an awesome program and just try to make it even better. So we've been very blessed to have great connections in Western New York, great connections within the CEL community. But I think the idea, what I've seen in Western New York, there's definitely an increased emphasis now on how can we all get together and help the community. So I just had it this morning, part of a monthly meeting where all the different business support organizations get together on a Zoom call, and we say, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so we know, what's going on, and we can refer people to it. There's a lot of attention and activity both on the state level, the county level, and the city level to try to get organizations to collaborate and work together rather than us all doing duplicative programs. We're constantly saying here at CEL, somebody will say, oh, we should be doing, we see a need X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, hang on. Let's see who does that. And if somebody else is doing it well, let's just send everybody over there because, we don't need to be a jack of all trades. We need to be good, excellent at what we do. And we need to know who's excellent at whatever else somebody needs.
Yeah, I know you mentioned using the tax groups at UB and the
Mhm.
experts in tax and accounting. Would you say the CEL works with a lot of different departments at UB?
Absolutely. Yes. We're very lucky. We bring in, different faculty members to come and speak to our programs. Actually, our MSA tax, I forget which tax class, but one of our MSA tax classes, they come in and work with our emerging entrepreneurs. I think they come in January and they can set one-on-one appointments to understand, because a lot of times this is new too, understanding what New York State tax requirements are and what they have to do for their business owners. And the students work directly with them. We bring in, aside from even, well, more at UB, we work with the Blackstone Law, well, now it's the Collaboratory over in the Department of Student Affairs. We work with those students and try to support them through whatever kind of programming they have, or sometimes as judges or whatever it is. We have friends at the Buffalo Entrepreneurship Partnerships at UB that have a cultivator program. So if we find business owners who are more, high tech, need some cultivator type support, we send them over there. They send some students or some prospective, participants over to us. So we're really fortunate. Other departments at UB as well. I've just met with someone over at the Early Childhood Research Center about how their department's working and what CEL could do to support them. We've had different individuals who run departments at UB actually come through our program to treat it, because they're basically entrepreneurs, right? They're running a department, and to get some insight and help and support to do that more effectively and efficiently. So we love that. We love having a collaboration there. And we're always looking for more speakers and experts of whatever of interest to come in and talk to our business owners. So yeah, it's been a really nice collaboration. And we're, compared to other support organizations in Western New York, we're lucky to have the backing of UB. So we do have folks that we can come to that can provide knowledge and expertise, and sometimes resources. We heavily utilize the UB library resources on behalf of our businesses, to help them do research or understand about their industry. So, we're very fortunate to have the university's backing.
For students who are considering joining a graduate management program, a graduate business school program, is there any advice you would have for
Do
them?
it. I think, one of the fallacies of a graduate business degree, right, is, well, I'm not a business student, but everyone in the whole wide world pretty much works in a business, whether it's a nonprofit business or a for-profit business. So having a graduate business degree just helps you navigate those waters no matter what it is. If you're the engineer at an engineering, organization, it's still a company that has to be run, and understanding how your projects impact the bottom line makes you a more effective engineer, more effective architect. In our programs, we have surgeons, we have dentists, we have pharmacists who come through, because guess what? A pharmacy is a business, a dental office is a business, a surgery center is a business, So a graduate degree, helps you to understand a way and a thought process that is complementary to any other degree program. If your undergraduate degree is a business degree, my personal opinion, you need that graduate degree. It sets you apart and it shows a serious attention to your craft. Okay. And I think that's important. The big thing about degree programs, though, it's the content is great. And don't get me wrong, I was a MBA professor for 20 plus years of my life. I taught great, useful content. The most important thing students learn from any of my classes, and I think from any classes, is learning to learn, learning to ask questions, because the content's going to change. The content's not going to be, some of it's timeless, but some of it isn't, right? I mean, I took marketing a lot of years ago. Nothing I learned back then applies right now, right? But you learn how to be curious, you learn how to ask questions, you learn how to interact with other people, you learn how to think differently. You see the world through a different lens, right? That's what education gives someone. That's what degrees do. It's not about the content. The content is important for your craft and your skill, but for your life, it's learning how to think and how to participate and how to be curious, how to ask questions, how not to take everything at face value. When you dig in, I used to teach finance classes. You dig into financial statements and you're doing an analysis, right? The numbers are there. The numbers are going to change all the time, but you learn skills to dig in. You start to add, you don't just assume a line item is right. You start to think, well, wait a minute. Okay, what does that mean? What's behind it? What's the question here? And it's that way with any part of your degree program. It's learning to be curious. But once you get your degree, you're not done. And that's where people come to places like CEL if they're business owners, but other places, because you got to be continual learners, right? You have to continuously get value. I'm learning every day. I'm so blessed right now that I can sit in on all these workshops that we bring in for our business owners, because I keep learning things. I am loving all the AI stuff I've been learning the last couple of years, right? I didn't get that when I was in college. Super impactful to my daily business, to my job, is being able to use new tools and different things and see things. I learn from our business owners. That's part of the fun of my job, is I get to learn what they do and how they do it, and where they see differences. And we learn from the experts we bring in. So yeah, education. One thing, this my dad, rest his soul, said to me every day of my life. He grew up, and my father started out as a janitor at a big manufacturing company in Buffalo. No degree. He grew up poor. His mom died when he was young, the whole thing, and never had a degree. Eventually made it up to plant manager. 4 girls, there's me and my 3 sisters, and every day of our lives, he said, education is the one thing nobody can take away from you. I want my daughters to always have an education, and you never have to rely on somebody else. The one thing that, no matter what, you may lose money, gain money, relationships may change, but your education stays with you. So I'm a firm believer.
That's a great story. I didn't know that.
I was first generation
For the
college.
current,
Yeah.
oh, very nice. For the current MBA students or current students in the graduate programs, I know you mentioned in another episode about a year ago, Albert Einstein's quote about insanity, that you never want to do the same thing and expect a different result. For people who are maybe looking for jobs or looking to start a business and don't know how to make that shift to do something different, what would you say for them as advice?
So, one of the things, if people are thinking entrepreneurship, and we've done a lot of work with kind of budding entrepreneurs, number one, if you think you want to start your own business because it's going to be easier, just stop right there. You're done. Okay. Because that is not at all the case. It's going to be harder. Okay. The entrepreneurs we know all work harder, spend more time, wouldn't have it any other way. Okay. Would never change it. That's their passion. They believe in what they're doing. They want to control their destiny. And that's not to say that, being a business owner can't provide you with different flexibility or things. There's obviously things that you can do, but you are the business, right? You're going to live, eat, and breathe it for a while. So when people start out, one of the fallacies is, there's two ways to look at entrepreneurship, right? You jump in both feet first and you just quit your day job and you start your business and you hope for the best. And that works out for some people. It doesn't work out for some people. And then the other option is, right, you find something you can start on the side and then you grow it into something and you make an equation in your mind of when you can leave the day job to do that full time. But if you're thinking of starting a business in a field that you don't or haven't worked in, you need to do that first. Okay. Most of the time. And again, there's always exceptions to the rule and, people who make crazy success in weird ways. But generally, if you think you have the best recipe for Italian spaghetti sauce and you want to open a restaurant, but you've never worked in a restaurant, please, 6 months at least, go in so that you understand what that means. Okay. And the business side of it and the things you have to worry about and why table turns matter and why, inventory is so hard and things, just so that you understand, is this something I want to do? So when you start out and maybe you don't have to work in it, but at least shadow, at least talk, at least, have conversations. There's lots of ways to get to meet entrepreneurs, get to meet people who are in businesses that you're thinking about and see what the reality is. What's the real story? And in Buffalo, we're so fortunate with this entrepreneurial ecosystem. There are coffee meetups and social hours with other entrepreneurs all throughout Western New York that people can just show up at and ask questions and talk to get a real sense of what it would mean to do that. What you will never have though, okay, if you're thinking about being a business owner, you will never have a time where you say there's no risk to this or this is a safe choice. At some point, you're going to have to make a leap of faith. You're going to have to take a risk and you're going to have to hopefully have, some guardrails around that or hopefully have a way to still, feed the family. But at some point it is going to be a risk. There's really not a risk-free way to start anything. But depending on what you have going, sometimes, starting a business from home before you go out and, sign the lease contract, making a proof of concept, sometimes we tell people, okay, you have this great idea for a product. Can you sell that product at somebody else's place and see how it goes? There's lots of lower risk ways to start a business and see if it's for you. But, some people are entrepreneurs or risk takers. Some of them are all in from the beginning and we see what happens, but I will say, one of my favorite stories coming out of CEL recently has been Rebecca Brady, who founded Top Seeds. She came through our emerging entrepreneurs program, making her seed crackers, in her kitchen and worked with us, through our 10-month program, kept working on her business, kept expanding it. And for those who don't know the story, she ended up being one of the first winners of the 43 North competition, $1 million investment in her business. She's now, expanded several times. She's in a new facility, an amazing story of success. But again, she didn't wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to open a factory. It started with some natural progression there. Has she taken risks? Absolutely. Has she gotten the reward? Absolutely. So sometimes it's hard. And sometimes it's hard for a business owner, to look themselves in the eye and say, is this what I want to do? We deal with that a lot with family businesses, the second or third generation, and it's been kind of handed to them and they're not sure it's what they want. So is it what I want to do? Am I good at it? Am I putting the time in? And does the market need it? And, we have a lot of times people have passions about what they love to do, which is great. And we want to support that. But you have to have people who want or need that. There has to be a gap in the market. You have to be filling a need. So sometimes it's being realistic with, if you have something that, is a service that only you can provide, you can't hire somebody to do it. You've got a ceiling, there's a cap. You can only grow so big, So one of the hard lessons we give a lot of our entrepreneurs is if you are the business, your business has zero value. You can't sell it. You may love it. You may want to work in it. That's great. But if something happens to you, the business dies, the business ends. So part of what we try to show our entrepreneurs is how to set up a framework, a system, a team, and our test is always, can you go on vacation for 2 weeks and not worry that the business is going to die and your customers are going to be upset? Like, that's the test. Because if you're setting up a business for the long haul, like you want to be able to pass it on to kids or sell it someday or have be acquired or whatever, it's got to run without you. And that's sometimes humbling as well, right? That you have to, because you think you're the one who's the best at it, so you have to be the one to do everything. But sometimes that's not realistic.
To end off here, what are your goals maybe this next year and in the future?
So we've been very fortunate that we've been experiencing some great growth at CEL. So we've had enrollment increases in all of our programs. We've had some really nice corporate and grant support that has allowed us to do some additional services and things for our business owners. So we want to continue all that. So the short answer is, we want to keep doing the legacy and being true to what we've done all these years. But then, I always say it's not a this or, it's a this and for us. A few of our goals for 2025 in particular, we want to integrate faculty and students even more into our programs. So we're trying to have a little bit more of a research focus so that we can learn some things from our business owners that we can share, beyond just Western New York, in terms of best practices and what works, and really dig into some of the research of entrepreneurs, of businesses. So we're working with some faculty members at the School of Management to do that. Trying to integrate students even more. We have a lot of students who work with our businesses doing projects. We want to expand and continue to be that support and really the conduit for the School of Management to be able to interact with industry. So, if you're a faculty member who, may or may not have been from Western New York and you have interest somewhere, but you don't know come nuts. That's what we do, so we're here to help really make that connection, for whatever the reason, whether it's getting students internships, jobs, projects, helping the research support. We want to keep expanding that role within the School of Management, showing the School of Management how we can help achieve their objectives as well. And then for our business owners for 2025, my big goal, okay, I've been blessed to be able to meet with a lot of different resource providers in Western New York, and I am constantly surprised by what people have to offer small businesses that I didn't know about. And I think if I didn't know about it, odds are a lot of people didn't know about it, right? Because I'm in all these meetings. And so we're really trying to do some programming. We're actually going to have a big event next year where we bring all of our resource partners together and our entrepreneurs, give them an opportunity to network with each other, but give them an opportunity to learn about what services are available. UB has a wonderful entrepreneurial law clinic. Do our business owners all really know what that can do for them? We have a Center for organizational leadership. Can they get, do they understand coaching they can get? Do they understand what they can do for their teams? So really and beyond UB, there are so many, state, federal, local programs that support, workforce development, that support, there's a census office that will help entrepreneurial research. Do people know that? I don't think so. So part of our goal is to get, to take a bigger role in the entrepreneurial community to be that connector, because I really do think that's the most important thing we can do. Keep doing what we do very well, but then add highlight what everybody else is doing really well too, and really try to make businesses in Western New York never have to struggle to figure out where to go for help. I hope any business owner who sees this or ever hears anything I say knows, at least call me, send us an email at UB. And, again, I'm not going to know everything, but I'm going to try my darndest to get you to the right resource. Because I think that's, it's a tough job being a business owner. You need all the support you can get, and we want to provide it for sure.
Susan Steffan, where can they find you and the CEL?
So physically, we're located at the Gateway Building downtown, so just off the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. And if they want to find our website, it's management.buffalo.edu/CEL, or you can just go to the UB website and you can type in Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership in the search bar and you'll get to us. And if you want to give us a call, the number is 716-885-8715. And we are all over social media. We have a Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as a YouTube channel. So you can find us all over.
Susan, Thank you for your time, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on the Above
Thank
podcast.
you so much for having me.
Make sure to follow. Yeah, of course. Make sure to follow the UB School of Management on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great rest of your day. Go UB Bulls, and we'll see you again
Go Bulls.
soon.